Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Chris. I'm excited for this one. I'm very excited about this one. We got a big game tomorrow. Going to do this live stream. If you guys were here last time, you know what we do. So it's a full game simulation. I'm going to give people a little bit of time, about a minute or so, before we really get going into this. But it's a full game simulation with the real team, real rosters, real depth charts. You guys probably saw the sneak peeks over the summer. And basically, this is a full game. After the first week, last week against UAB, I made some adjustments. We're going to go 10-minute quarters, and I'm very excited about it. I got the real uniforms, too, that the teams announced, and we'll get right into it. First off, a huge shout-out to Norman. Before we even get started, you're already dropping in the donation because you're very excited about this game, so shout-out to you. I really love your support, man. It's great. And also, John, you're here all the time as well. Keep chatting. Let me know real quick, and we'll get going. And you see on the screen there's a chat, and what I've learned too, instead of kind of worried about it, whatever, basically it just takes a little bit of time to get going there with the active chat on the actual game. So we're going to get right into it, and I even got something a little bit extra at the beginning with Lee Corso making his pick on the game. So you guys got to check that out, and we're going to get this thing going soon. If you have any questions, if there's any issues with audio or video or anything like that, always drop in the comments just to make sure I see it, and we'll get right into this. There's a lot of people jumping on, so let's get right to this, guys. Stephanie Victor, what's going on? Glad you're here. Glad you're back. I remember you dropping in there before. Let's get this thing going. I'm gonna let you guys just kind of listen to the intro a little bit, and then I'll jump right on afterwards. But let's get this thing going. I'm excited. Okay, let's go. Let me get this right here.
All right, guys, we've got time just for a few for Coach Diaz, similar to our setup.
I'm Brad Nessler, joined in the booth by Lee Corso and Kirk Herbstreit.
I decided my pick a couple of days ago. Miami will win big.
All right, you heard it from Lee Corso himself. We'll see how that pick pans out.
Gentlemen. All right, thanks, Coach. EA Sports coverage of the National Football League is on the air. The scene a few moments ago.
So there we go. We got it going. We got the Miami Hurricanes, Louisville Cardinals. It's tomorrow night. Game day will be there. You know Corso's going to put on the hat, and hopefully he does the Miami with the Ibis. Everybody's dropping in here. Stephanie's here. Already mentioned that. David, glad you're here. Utilize 3 Eyes, welcome. And Colbert's here. John, yeah, there we go. So we'll get this thing going. If you have any questions about the game, obviously drop that. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen in this one as well. And you see a lot of new faces in there. Had to make sure I got the young guys in there as well. And hopefully everything's going okay. Make sure hopefully you guys can hear everything okay. If someone could drop in the comments, let me know, just to make sure we're good to go. There we go. Man, these graphics are nice. When I did okay, so there's Tutu Atwell. Let's get right into it with Tutu. Led the ACC in receiving last year. Miami native. You guys probably know his third year here at Louisville. Just a big-time playmaker. And what's interesting about him, the 5'9" size, but elite speed, quickness, agility. Put up 140 yards on Miami last year. Looking to do big things for Louisville again this year. See the quarterback here. So it says Malik Cunningham. He used to go by Malik. There's a little bit of edits with this game. But, yeah, he goes by Mikhail. Malik's his middle name. So he just kind of mixed it up. So that's why you see that. But don't get it confused. Same guy, the whole thing. But, yeah, so dual threat guy. Threw for over 300 yards last week. Dropping touchdowns as well. Had 3 passing touchdowns and ran for a score as well. But going back to Tutu, it's going to be very interesting. And I think you guys probably already heard the news this week. Christian Williams decides to transfer after the first game. So Miami's down to essentially 3 cornerbacks that played last week. Al Blades Jr., DJ Ivey, and Corey Couch. I think many of you, you're very interested to see about Corey Couch. You know, can this be a year that he really takes that jump? And it sounds like the coaches really like him. Blake Baker had positive things to say about Couch this week, so that was good to see. And I was able to ask Manny a question because basically with Christian out, does that mean that there is room for a 4th corner? Or, you know, with these other guys, the 2 freshmen, Isaiah Dunson from Georgia is one, and then Marcus Clark as well. And because they didn't play last week, so you wonder, will they take the 8 snaps that Christian got? Is there ability to do that? And it sounds like, just based on Manny's response, you could check the channel and maybe form your own opinion, but it sounds like they're just going to roll with those 3 that they have. And obviously, in saying that, expect them to travel, and you know, they can obviously go in there. But I think the big takeaway is the majority, for sure, the majority of the snaps will be with those 3 corners. And the thing is, too, that you got to remember, they've got the safeties that they like. They rotate 3 safeties in, and they can definitely use those guys as well. And just real quick, if any Louisville fans are here, shout out to you. And I know maybe you're going to see your roster, maybe it's a little different. There's a few tweaks that I wasn't able to make. A little disappointed with some of the players, but for the most part, this is exactly the roster based on the depth chart that they're going to be going with tomorrow night. And these are the uniforms. I thought they might go with the all black, but they're going to mix it up. And they're actually going with the red jerseys, red helmets. So I'm looking at the game. I'm seeing all the fans in the crowd, and I know it's tough watching football without the fans, without everybody, but it still should be a really good atmosphere and a big game. It's the only, game day will be on campus, on location, but it's the only game this weekend between ranked teams. So I think that's a great opportunity for Miami to really show what they have, to essentially really put last year behind them. I think you don't want to say must win, but I think there definitely is a lot riding on this game. For it being an individual, just a one game at the beginning of the year, it just feels like there's a lot. One of the reasons why I think things are different for Miami this year is because of De'Aaron King. And to me, it starts tomorrow, really. I mean, they've got to get that win. He's got to play well. Passing game needs to be on point. We didn't see it as much in the first game. It's got to be better, and I think it starts tomorrow. I mentioned Louisville. They bring back a lot of their offensive weapons, so they can put points on the board. And I think it's just a tough test for Miami, for De'Aaron King, and this is why you are excited about him. It should show up tomorrow.
So the incomplete pass on the last play, and that leads us to a 3rd and 3.
I think you guys saw right there with the linemen. Yeah, it's a little bit different. They're obviously not going to go 3-4, but it is what it is. This is definitely a little bit tricky to put this thing together, but hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully you liked the beginning with Corso. I had to throw that in there as well. Gary, what's going on? Shout out to you. Yeah, I think you're right in the way Manny responded. I thought that was an interesting way. He definitely didn't hold back in the sense that, guys have to compete and that whole thing. It's a tough catch by Tutu right there.
But now the kicker, can they cap it off by putting the ball in the end zone?
Led Northwestern to a state championship as a quarterback, and just been a really dynamic. And they'll be aware of his speed. But anyways, going back to Christian Williams, and one thing too, Gary, also, Manny wasn't scheduled to speak to the media that day. Actually, that morning when we got the list, it wasn't even supposed to. He still wasn't going to talk.
Maybe just a slight detour.
And then they brought him out there, and we were able to ask questions. So, okay, I am seeing this black box. This chat thing is a little frustrating. Like, sometimes what's happened is it takes a few minutes for it to get going, then all the chat comes in at once. So hopefully that's what happened. As far as Brooks and Huff tomorrow, I expect Sam Brooks, listening to Blake Baker speak this week. And that was kind of the question. There we go. I think we got it going. Hopefully it comes in a little bit clear. I'm going to make an adjustment here real quick. I see what's going on. Maybe 1 second here. Yeah, I definitely think that Sam Brooks, because the question was, are there guys, reserves? Let's try that. A little bit. Are there reserves that impressed Blake Baker from the first game that maybe they can earn playing time in the second game? And the first name that came out of his mouth was Sam Brooks. And if you look at the snap count, Bradley Jennings got 36 snaps in the game, and Brooks got 26. So if you're looking at a potential guy that didn't start to get playing time. I think that's definitely a name to watch.
First down, it's Cunningham. His pass
And there's a touchdown for Louisville. They get on the board first.
end zone touchdown, Cleveland. An 11-yard touchdown. And this
Nice throw
offense
there in the
takes
pocket. That's our tight end right there, 83.
on their opening drive.
So I definitely expect Brooks. You know, Huff is the interesting one because I think a lot of fans are excited about Avery Huff. Athleticism from St. Thomas Aquinas. Didn't play last year. Everybody's waiting to see what he has. Some good length, ability to get to the sideline. But for me, I definitely feel like the coaches and maybe even the teammates, they don't speak about him nearly as much as the fans would expect or as much as they do. And it's, you know, so it just makes me feel like there's other guys that they're going with at this point. It's not to say that Avery can't be a good player. It just doesn't seem like he's right there in the mix as much as those other guys. So I definitely think Brooks is, conversely, I think he is in that mix.
And it's good to make it 7-0.
And I think another guy, you know, Wayman Steed is right in there too. Got some snaps last week as well. So and Steed just kind of strikes me as a little bit ahead right now at the point. But I definitely think Huff will get playing time. And the big thing for him is if he's on special teams, that's a great opportunity for him to do well. Josiah's here. Shout out to you. What's going on? Made a quick adjustment on this chat. A little bit better here. They should start flowing in now. Hopefully that goes well. And hopefully you guys hopefully the game's going okay for you guys, the sound and everything. Although Miami's got a little bit of a deficit here.
Now after the touchdown,
Curious, let me know in the chat what uniform, if you guys like these uniforms Miami wears, the all white. I think most people do, but I have heard, you know, some people aren't huge fans of them over the years. But actually, for me, I really like when they do the all white. So, Alex D, what receiver do you think has a breakout game Saturday? You know, I think of those guys, obviously with Wiggins and Pope, the ability to get downfield. But I think if you want to look at a guy, I think Mike Harley is a guy that you hear about the connection he has with De'Aaron King. They both speak highly of that connection. And I just feel like if you're going to pick a receiver, I think it would start with Harley to have like a good performance, number of catches and just involved there. Hopefully gets downfield a little bit. But I think maybe you start with him. And then, you know, with Pope and Wiggins, you see flashes of it. Hopefully Pope is going to be okay in the return game after what happened last game, after what happened in the UAB simulation. I think you guys saw that if you guys were here last week. Shocking end to the game there, and he goes out and has a rough go of it in the real game. So, but I definitely think that's the receivers. I'll say I think that the passing game will do better, and you see right here with the offensive line, Ja'Kai Clark. That's a new move. Miami's going to start Ja'Kai Clark at left guard, so I had to make sure to get him in there. Ja'Kai started right guard last year, 12 games, didn't play much, only 3 snaps in the opener. But they had decided to move off of Traore. Usman, who started the game, made his first start, and then made the announcement that they're going to go with Ja'Kai Clark. Everything else should stay the same as far as we know at this point.
We're just getting started here. It should be a long way to go. You think to yourself, stick with the game plan. All the things you want
Talked about the offensive line. But what I was saying was I definitely think Miami's passing game can get going. You know, keep looking for Brevin Jordan. Look for him to get more involved in the first half compared to last game. I don't think there's an issue with tight end with Jordan. I think just the way the game worked out, I think they'll get him more involved. But what I'm interested is, I'm wondering, and I know that they relied on the run game because it was working. I'm wondering if they plan on really leaning on the run game most of the season. And I know it's early, guessing, speculating. But the one thing is, Brett Lashley all summer, all offseason, was talking about the power spread. Definitely want to run the ball. Background in Auburn, they ran the ball. So it sounds like, and now that the season comes up, they really want to put that identity in running the ball in the first game, and it makes you feel like, okay, maybe that's what's going to be the strength of the offense. And so I think it'll be interesting to watch, interesting to see how it works out moving forward. I think it starts against Louisville as well, where maybe they're just going to stick with that run game a little bit more than what was expected. The ability for De'Aaron to to run out of it certainly helps quite a bit. And I think, too, the one thing that we need to get this chat thing going. But one thing that strikes me, too, after the game, UAB's head coach had a lot of positive things to say about D'Eriq as well. Just, you know, he had 83 yards. And kind of what struck me with how he ran the ball, it just ran with a lot of purpose. He made a lot of the good reads, got upfield, definitely looked like he wanted to pass quite a bit.
So that flag will cost him 15.
But if it wasn't there, he would take off and run. And I think that was good. I think it was a good sign for him. I think it was a good start. I think he'll be better. I think he'll keep improving with the offense. And I definitely think the passing game needs to get going for that balance. Darylyn, what's going on? Okay, what quarterback and running backs do you think will show up big time? Yeah, I think both quarterbacks, you can see both quarterbacks on both sides play well tomorrow. You know, what you saw from Cunningham in that first game. If you're a Louisville fan, you definitely have to be excited about that, the big passing yardage, the way they spread the ball around to different guys. Also mixing in the ability to run the ball. And you got to figure with the season he had last year, you definitely feel like he can have a good year too. Okay, so there we go. So Miami's on the board. D'Eriq King gets a touchdown. It's a good start. He had the first touchdown in the first game as well. Gotta like to see that. But I definitely think D'Eriq's going to play better. You know, I think tomorrow's such a key point because if you really look at D'Eriq's pass, he can pass the ball, okay? He's proven it when he was at Houston, seen it in our practices and things like that. However, if you want to look at something, maybe look at the trend of his last 5 games that he's played in. Actually, there would be 6. So it's the 4 games last year, the one this one, and the one before on the season before. Anyways, if you look at that stretch, the passing numbers aren't there. And I think that's the one thing that you want to see, not just from the team, but you want to see D'Eriq, put together one of those passing numbers that you've seen him do before, the 300 yards or the high efficiency, 250, something like that, where he's very productive in the passing game. Because you definitely want that dual threat ability. And I don't think it's anything to be worried about. I just think it needs to be, they'd like to get those results. And certainly the receivers can help them out. So here we go. We got 7-7 here. Moving the game along. A little bit longer quarters. But I thought it'd be better. I thought the last game was just a little too quick. And I was listening to you guys. You guys kind of said that you'd like it to be a little bit longer. So we'll see how this one shakes out. Alex, as far as receivers, I definitely think, just kind of touching on the Miami receivers, but certainly if you look at the Louisville side of it, not just with Outwell, but they've got the big receiver, they got other receivers, 2 other guys. There's one right there, 7. Okay, so you see him. He had over 100 yards last week. And then Braden had over 100 yards as well. Braden Smith. So they have different guys that can make plays, and I think that's the thing that essentially becomes scary with the Louisville offense, the multiple receivers. And then the running backs with Javian Hawkins and Hassan Hall. And Hawkins was 3rd in the ACC last year in rushing. So it's definitely going to be, anytime you bring guys back, and I said this before, but anytime you bring guys back, you definitely feel like they can elevate their game. And I think that's what, if you're Louisville, that's what you're looking to see. And if you're Miami, you want to see that from your guys as well, with Mike Harley back for another year, D. Wiggins, Mark Pope, is it time to break out, these kind of things. Cameron Harris was there last year, but maybe, and I think you saw it from the first game already this year, and I know it was UAB, but they had a solid defense, and I felt like we saw a different Cam Harris in the opener than what we've seen in his career thus far, and I think that's a positive sign. That's what you want to see with guys returning, not just that they come back and can be relied on, but actually elevate their games and be better than what we've seen before. And I think even just from a one-game sample size, we did see that with Cam. And I think that was good. It was good to see with the results, because we've been hearing all off season that he has improved, that his strength has improved, that he's really, dedicated this season because he knows he's going to be the guy, and it's nothing to take away from the last couple of years, but there's definitely a sense of urgency with him, and I don't think there's any question about that. And it was great to see the results in that first game for him. I think going back to Brevin Jordan, I think he's an interesting one because, even with what you saw the first 2 seasons from Brevin, you want to see him shine in a big game, and I think this is an opportunity here. Louisville brings back some linebackers, but, if Miami's going to be this balanced attack, get the passing game going, I think Brevin's a guy that you definitely look at as a key part there. That's a huge play right there. Jalen Phillips solid in the first game. I felt like, the analytics were good with Jalen. I felt like when you watched him, he made plays, put pressure on. Afterwards, he did say that he felt, he's not satisfied, which is good because I definitely think he's got more production. I think you see a play like this, that'd be big for tomorrow if he's able to go ahead and get the quarterback down. And one of the things that Al Blades Jr. said about Cunningham was he's a guy, obviously he praised his athleticism, but what stood out to me was he really raved about his confidence right now. Feels like Cunningham's playing with a lot of confidence, and a guy like that is definitely tough to stop when they are playing with high confidence.
Looking for his running back, and he's got him. And this play will be blown up. He'll lose yardage back at the 30.
So we go 7-7. Solid start here.
And that's going to bring up a 4th down. Really good defensive effort. They were all over that little swing pass out to the right side before long.
Another thing that Al said, I have an article on the site if you guys want to check it out on InsideTheU.com, but there's an article, and what he said was, I want to make sure I get this right, but basically just feels like, I don't want to misquote him. Let me pull this up real quick.
Oregon's punter out on the field as he's on to punt for the first time tonight.
Basically, he was asked about, just his thoughts on maybe some of the challenges that Louisville presents. And he just kind of basically in his answer, he said, I feel it's always us versus us. If we come out and play as Miami Hurricanes, I don't think anything they do will really threaten us. And I feel like a lot of the time, Miami players do feel that way. They feel like if we just handle our business, if we play the way we're supposed to, we should be fine. And I understand the confidence. That's a good punt there. I understand the confidence. I just, I think sometimes maybe that they get away from, and I don't want to say that they discredit their opponent, but it seems like that they really need to make sure they understand that their opponents really are a challenge, and that I mentioned some guys, and they, with Atwell leading the ACC in receiving, Hawkins one of the top running backs in the ACC, those kind of things, definitely aware of the potential and the potential threats, rather than just always saying, because it kind of sometimes feels like it's a little bit disregarding their opponents. And I feel like that comment or that opinion that I might have with that is easy to have when the results aren't there. When you go 6-7, maybe you do point to that
From the 32 now, here's 1st and 10.
as something to clean up a little bit or really focus on. So just something interesting that you hear from the players quite a bit, and the coaches too. And it's not that I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It's not that they don't really think much of these guys or anything like that. I think that just to make sure that these guys, just make sure that they do have the understanding that these guys are threats, I think is important. So, and it's obviously a balance because you obviously want to have confidence. But we'll see how it goes. I think you guys are excited about tomorrow because, look, this is a game that was not on the schedule with the new schedule. And there's Brevin right there. With the new schedule, you see it. You get a chance to watch Miami in an ACC game. If Miami's going to challenge for getting into the ACC championship game, they've got to win games like this because Louisville essentially does look like one of the upper half teams. One of the teams that's ranked 7 this week, but 7 ranked teams. So definitely anytime you go up against teams like this, it's a challenge, and you know, only 2 teams will be in that title game, so winning these games are important. I think it's important just for momentum. You guys have been following Miami for a while now, I'm sure, but you definitely feel like when Miami gets a little bit of momentum, it's definitely helpful, especially with a new quarterback, new coordinator. There's a lot of confidence in all those things, but to actually get results, I think a lot of people will be feeling better about everything once wins start coming. So that's why it's a big one. Plus, Miami should be confident from last year's game. You guys remember 52-27 Miami wins, lead the all-time series 10-3-1. Snapped a 3-game losing streak to Louisville, so that was good as well. And they really got it going in the passing game. Trying to see here if they're going to go ahead and punch one in. Fierce, I'm glad you enjoyed this. I enjoyed him over the offseason, just doing the sneak peeks, but basically I was holding off because I wanted to run him again with the full game, the full roster's depth chart, and the way it's worked out, I've been able to get the real uniforms in as well. These will be the uniforms both teams will be wearing. I'm a little unsure exactly what day to do it. Last week being the Thursday. Did the simulation on Wednesday, and then tonight, Friday. And I kind of wanted to do it on a Thursday, so maybe let me know if you guys have any comments or opinions. If you'd rather see this on a Thursday night, if you guys pay attention to the high school football, there's some games going on around the country here and there, but or if you like this right before the night before the game, get you hyped up for the game as well. So here we go. Okay, so there Miami relies on that running game. Jalen Knighton gets into the end zone just like he does in the Yard. Shout out to everybody who's been watching the Yard series on the channel. Enjoying putting those together. So that's good for Jalen. Rodney, what's going on? You know, I saw the prediction, and actually Jalen Phillips mentioned too, you know, he actually said, you know I'm not supposed to pay attention to things, but he did say that he thought there was he saw something with the 80%, about 80% chance that they wouldn't win. And that's probably maybe similar to what you're referring to with the matchup predictors. And it's obviously low, even though they're going on the road and you're not expecting, a crazy road environment. I think the big thing, Rodney, that I always come back to, and I was on the radio this week and I kind of said the same thing, like I just think it comes down to De'Aaron King. I think he's a difference maker. I think he's what tilts Miami to having a positive season compared to last year. I think he's able to make up for some of the holes that they have at different spots. I think he's a guy that's going to be able to elevate the team. I feel like he's a guy that can get the most out of his teammates, and that's why I feel like I do think that they'll win, and I have gone on the record and said that. I do think that this will be a challenge. I definitely respect, and I definitely think Louisville's got very good players that could give Miami trouble. In particular, I think their offensive guys can present some trouble for Miami with their speed, and you don't normally always say that because Miami typically for years has had plenty of speed, particularly on defense. And it's not that Miami has a slow team by any means. I just think with Louisville, what they have with their certain positions, you certainly can feel like that they're going to be able to utilize that. I think it's a big game for the secondary. I think there's a lot of attention on the secondary. Seeing a lot of comments. There's another big play by Jalen. Seeing a lot of comments from the fans. A lot of people upset with what happened in the first game with the secondary. In particular, a few big plays given up. Allowed a receiver well over 100 yards, give up, passing touchdown, those kind of things. I mentioned Couch earlier. You saw he gave up a big pass, forced a fumble, goes out of bounds. But you're starting to be a little bit concerned because of what you're seeing with teams coming up, particularly this game. Certainly Fitzpatrick, certainly Cunningham, and Tutu can get things going in the passing game in this one. You're thinking about Clemson in a couple weeks. Obviously can throw the ball. You need Miami's secondary to really take that leap. Another thing Al Blades Jr. said was he feels like they can have one of the best secondaries in the country. I feel like you say something like that, let's see it. I think in a game like this, then let's see it. Let's see the pass breakups. Let's see Miami hold Louisville down in pass efficiency. Make plays, make it tough to pass on. When you make statements like that, when you're that confident, then you got to go out there and have big results. And they have a great opportunity to do that. Don't allow Atwell to go off for 140 yards tomorrow, like he did last year. And I'm very curious, maybe drop in the comments, who do you guys want to see the majority of the time on Atwell? Do you want DJ Ivey a little bit longer, a little bit bigger corner? Miami's biggest corner. Do you want to see him on him? Or do you not feel like he's got the footwork, ability to change direction enough? Maybe you go with the smallest receiver, so smallest corner, with the Corey Couch, very similar in stature. Maybe you'd like to see that matchup. Or, Al Blades Jr. And they'll mix it up. Typically Miami, when they do face top receivers like this, they typically, over the years, will keep their corners in the spots on defense, as opposed to shadowing a guy the whole time, like maybe what you would see in an NFL situation.
So from Cowboy territory now, here's 1st and 10 at the 42-yard line.
So I think that's definitely interesting matchup with those three, and I think, I'd like to see them definitely rotate. I'm very curious, again, if Corey Couch is going to take that jump. I think it starts tomorrow, and if you put him on him, you're basically trying to match up similar sizes and seeing if Corey can run with them and give him enough trouble.
He is well over 300 pounds. He's a big man.
But I think it's important to definitely mix it up. Obviously, I think Blades and Ivy will have their opportunities as well.
Focus on the defensive end on this play. He does everything exactly right.
And also feels like with Fitzpatrick,
And make sure he spills it for a small gain.
Now play number 7 of this
they definitely have to keep an eye on him. Like I said, he's 6'2", 210. That's similar to the receiver that UAB had. So maybe you're looking at go Ivy on Fitzpatrick, Couch on Atwell, and then Braden Smith is 5'10", 190. Maybe you're looking at Al Blades there. Maybe that's if you were to balance it up, match it up, 1 for 1. Sadly, what's going on? Glad you're here. Glad you're excited about the game. Kyle, what's going on? Shout out to you. Hey, talking about the linebackers, haven't got to them, but I'm with you there. I think it's very interesting to see the linebackers, how they're going to progress. I think there's some challenges there. I think you saw with McLeod, a couple tackles last game. Wanted to see him a little bit more active. Will he be as productive as Pinckney and Quarterman? It's yet to be seen. But the one thing that you want to see is you want to see a better play, improved play. Maybe you're looking at, okay, McLeod didn't play much last year. He's been out for a long time. Let's see how he does. Jennings on the flip side didn't even play last year. A little bit more productive. And you saw some signs there that you liked. And Miami's on the move here. Moving the ball downfield.
The defensive end Cameron Wake brings him down.
Cameron Wake makes plays like that look simple because I think he plays with excellent leverage. Really does a nice job of being
Henry, okay, as far as Restrepo, I think Restrepo will be used this year, and we'll just have to see when. But I do think he's a guy that will find himself in the rotation at some point. Or at least, maybe not rotation, maybe just opportunity for a few series. I definitely like to see him potentially in the in the return game as well. And I think you'd probably like to see that too. Maybe if Pope does struggle, maybe you're not sold on Gervin Hall, a safety there as a punt returner. Maybe you'd like to see Restrepo be given the opportunity to have the ball in his hands.
Completion actually lost a yard, so now they'll need to.
And I think you guys probably saw too with Restrepo changed his number the week before the game, or the week of the game. He'd been wearing number 80 since he arrived at Miami, and he's actually switched to number 7. I know he's excited to, or just looking forward to wearing 7 in honor of his former teammate Bryce Gowdy at Deerfield Beach. Okay, Kyle, as far as starting the youth at linebacker, the thing is they've got to make plays. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just throw them out there. I think that's a position where you can get exposed. And so maybe on the flip side, as a defense, you're thinking I'd rather just have some solid play, some steady play, instead of just rolling out linebackers that could make mistakes. And maybe this isn't the game to do that. The only thing is, once we start talking about things, win is, the Clemson game is coming up. This is certainly a challenge because Louisville's ability to be able to run the ball and pass the ball. I know a lot of people want to see, okay, what can the youth do? You got to get them ready. Essentially, you've got to develop them. I think it starts with Sam Brooks. And it does sound like Brooks has a chance to get more playing time this week. Although they were happy with Jennings from the first game, it just my sense the way that Baker talked about it. Again, the splits. Once again, Jennings 36 snaps, Brooks 26, and Blake said that he thinks there's a chance, or he thinks there's a possibility that it'd be closer to 50-50. So maybe just the thought that he's thinking that at that point leading up to the game makes me think that it's definitely a possibility. So Miami is on the move here. Takes off and run. Oh, nice move. Yeah, De'Eric. Such a big game. You hate to put so much on him so early in the season, but really it is an important game. And he's a guy that's been around his 5th year in college. Even though it's new at Miami, this is why he came to Miami for these kind of big games. He definitely has to outplay Cunningham. Has to really get the passing game going.
And he is not going to get through here on try number 1. They stop him at the goal line.
And it's not to say that Miami won't get better as the season goes along. It just feels like to kind of help put away last year even more, that a positive result is important for the Hurricanes tomorrow night. Okay, so there. Oh, big stuff. That's tough right there. Barry, what's going on? Brooks and 44 Jennings.
And this is caught for a Cowboy touchdown.
Yeah, Kyle, the vets aren't experienced. Yeah, Jennings. So with that, Jennings had 16 games played coming into the season. 4th-year junior. Steed, same age, same grade. And I think he was under 10. I think he'd only played in 5 games coming into the year. That's a nice play right there from Miami. There's Mike Harley. Got the celebration going. Ja'Kai Clark, 53. Nice play by De'Eric. And that's what you want to see. That's what you were expecting also coming into the year. Improve the third down efficiency and improve in the red zone. That's a good sign right there. Hopefully, like I said, I thought Mike Harley has an opportunity tomorrow for a positive game. This might be a good sign for that. Yeah, I'm curious what you guys thought. If you watched last week's simulation about Mark Pope, I'm curious how you guys, because I really couldn't believe what happened in the game. There we go. Everybody's celebrating there. That's good to see. Okay, so what else would have got? Zone blitz all night. That'll be interesting. See if they can get that going or some sort of mixing it up.
This is taken at the 3.
And Henry, do you think Miami will go more man? I think Roche and Jalen will cause some havoc, hopefully force turnovers. Definitely Henry. That's the thing why with the defense, I think you're looking at a lot of guys. Maybe the secondary needs to take that step up. Maybe the linebackers are not. They don't have the experience that you'd like. But what can really help the defense is those defensive ends. If there's a lot of guys on the defense that are average right now, and the defense is looking for an identity, replacing 2 4-year starting linebackers to start with, losing out on Rousseau, things like that. The 2 defensive ends have a lot of attention, a lot of pressure to be really successful, play above average. Because when you do that, when you get that pressure, it really helps out the back 7. In a game like this, not allowing Cunningham to get comfortable either taking off and running or in the passing game will be important. Because basically, if Louisville, they're going to have to be able to stop something. If Louisville's able to run the ball and pass the ball at the same time, it's going to be a tough night for Miami. And I think the defensive ends have an ability to put pressure, make plays, obviously with the pass rush. And you saw it last week, Quincy goes ahead and gets a sack, but I thought Jalen did a good job on the pressures. Got his hands on the ball a little bit. I think with what we saw from Jalen from the first game, we're going to see him continue to get better. I think he's one of those guys that you can see him having one of those good seasons where it starts off and he just kind of continues to build on it. But to answer your question about playing more man, I think Miami likes to play man. I think that's what they like to do, particularly on the outsides. I do think it's something to watch for to see if adjustments are made as games go on. And maybe it's going to stay as man, but maybe they play off coverage a little bit more, off the line a little bit, if teams are able to pass the ball.
Essentially being a receiver downfield. It's very difficult, especially if the running back has skills like a receiver.
Yeah, Kyle, he's mobile. A little over 400 yards last year. But once again, he's a guy that threw for over 300 yards in the first game, 3 touchdowns. His passing touchdowns last year to interceptions was really good. So, although he's definitely an athletic guy, he's put up some good passing numbers. Over 60% completions in his career. Like I said, so last year he's 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2,000 yards. But he's a guy to me that can continue to get better as he gains more experience. So here we go. So we got halftime. Miami's looking good. You saw the Jalen Knight touchdown. De'Aaron King has done well. There's Cunningham finding his tight end. Miami with that 21-7 lead. There's Will Mallory there.
The Cowboys will get the football first here, and they have the lead as well as we are.
This is solid for Miami. Hopefully they get the win. Although maybe you're thinking it doesn't matter because of what happened in the UAB simulation and what happened in the real game. But hopefully you guys are just enjoying this and just talking about the game, thinking about what's going to happen, maybe seeing some of the matchups that you're seeing with this, and just seeing the graphics and the whole thing. And getting a look at a full stadium. And Rodney too, the thing about that fumble, man, I felt so bad. Like, it was really disappointing that it ended like that because it's like the first time we're doing this. And I know that's not what you guys signed up to watch. And it was definitely surprising it even got to overtime, but and then that happened. So yeah. But it is what it is. And hopefully this one ends up a little better.
They were looking to throw, holding on the big right tackle.
That's real simple, partner. Keep your hands inside in the chest area. You're probably okay. You get it out on the shoulders, get them wide. Usually going to pick up a holding call.
What else do we got here? Okay, if the D-line, yeah, I think that's a key point. Once again, with the D-line, they do well. Helps out quite a bit. Let's talk about Miami's offense a little bit, maybe what you're seeing. one of the questions I posed on the site, on the message boards, I was curious, and maybe you guys can let me know. I'm curious about if you're okay, if you're happy if Miami does kind of lean on the run more this season, if they're going to be a run heavy and really rely on the 3 running backs that you saw, and De'Aaron King, once again, nice run there. If you're okay with that playing style, maybe it's not what you expected. Maybe you thought the spread, open it up, go wide receivers, do a lot with that, and maybe it will still happen. But I'm curious if you'd like to see, if you're okay with it, or if it just doesn't matter. If they run the ball, if they pass it, whatever they do, as long as they're winning games and putting up points, maybe it's just something you can get behind regardless. It's a nice pass there. Michael, what's going on? Shout out to you. Glad you're here, man. Derek needs to start sliding as soon as possible. This headfirst dives are giving me anxiety. I know. I hear you. And I think the only thing you got to realize is he's been doing it. He did it at Houston, but yes, he has dealt with injuries. I think that's a big thing to watch for because, like I said, with how I feel about how the season will go, relies a lot on De'Aaron King. So if something were to happen, it definitely feels like it changes the whole complexion, or it definitely changes things. And I'm very curious to see about how the running game performs in this one. There's something I saw watching film I want to touch on. Nice catch by Hartley. Orange and Green Blood, what is going on? Glad you're here. Glad you were able to stop by. So one of the things I noticed with the run game, I was looking at the film from the game. I was watching particularly the productive, the chunk plays, the big runs, the 14, 15-yarders. Obviously, you saw what happened on the 66-yarder by Cam when he goes up the middle on a 4th and 1. I thought it was a great decision to go for it, even though it obviously worked out. But I thought even going into it, you're definitely fine with it, that 4th and 1. And one of the things that Manny said why it was an easy decision was that element with Derek able to run the ball. Just presents the defense with another challenge. But one of the things I was watching, because I was curious, when you're watching the game, it's going so fast and a lot of things going on. And we have the live chat on the site too, just talking with people. Maybe some of you guys are on there as well. But what stood out to me with those runs was it seemed like there were a lot of either counter plays or just running backs making backside runs where it opened up because the offensive line was slanting towards one direction, whether it was the right or the left. The protection was going one way for the run as a design. And I'm saying maybe it was a counter, a design counter, or it was just that the running backs were making reads really quickly, that holes weren't opening up, and so they're going ahead and taking what's given to them on the backside. And I find that very interesting because if you're Louisville, if you're the Louisville staff, you have to notice those things, and you've got to figure, that's an interception. You've got to figure that they're going to be ready, and maybe they're going to tell their guys to maybe on the backside, stay at home, be ready for that backside cut or the counter, depending on the play. But basically just be ready. Don't always go to the ball or where the linemen are running towards, because what you saw with all 3 of the running backs is all 3 of them have the ability to get downfield, get that 10, 15-yarder, 20 yards, and really explode. I thought with Jalen Knighton, there were a couple times, and I think, where he kind of not stumbled a little bit because he made some nice moves, but I think he maybe got too excited to make just that huge play. But I think it's a good sign that he made the plays he did, because I think more is coming as soon as he gets the ball. But just that ability to make big plays in the run game, you got to figure Louisville will be prepared. So my thing is, I'm curious about if that is the plan, or maybe Louisville does keep a guy home a little bit more on the backside. If Miami's going to go ahead and be able to run the ball with the same effectiveness. And obviously you're not expecting 330 yards every game, but it's just that yards per carry is high. The feeling where any running back that goes in there will be productive. Basically the feeling of not being able to be stopped. Just a lot of confidence in the run game. I think that's what you want to make sure, if you're Miami, that you keep doing, and hopefully it happens tomorrow in that sense, because I do think it's going to take a good running game tomorrow night
Yeah, it's great for him.
to pull out a win for
Like what you
Miami.
said there, sometimes he gets lost in the traffic a little bit, but get him out in the open field into some space.
Okay, what else have we got? Henry, I'm glad you keep dropping in with the comments. Definitely appreciate that. Like the running game, but maybe more double tight end sets. We have the best duo in the country. Have to utilize them more. I hear what you're saying, Henry. I know people are excited about, particularly with Will Mallory. You've got to see it. I want to see it. I've mentioned it multiple times. There's only been one game in their careers where they've had more than one catch in the same game. And to me, if you're one of those best duos, it has to be at the same time. It can't be when Brevin isn't out there. That's when Will is productive. If they're going to have a strong tight end duo or one of the best in the country, and you understand why that, I understand the statement, because they came in highly regarded, and you did see positive things from Will when he played. You'd just like to see him get him going at the same time. And you've seen, in particular NFL teams, right? Like you've seen NFL teams have a pair of productive tight ends that really can challenge opposing defenses, because it's when you have good tight ends, it definitely helps out quite a bit. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see them rely on that a little bit more tomorrow as they're looking to get the passing game going. I think it's a good place to start. And Henry, it's not that I'm down on Will. I do think he presents some challenges with his size, solid speed, things like that. I just want to see results.
They only got a yard out of that last completion, and that makes this 2nd and 9.
And the thing is, too, with the double tight end set, that basically means if you're going double tight ends, you're typically taking a receiver out, right? Like you could certainly go open with an empty backfield and keep a receiver out there. But basically, when you go with the tight end, usually the exchange would be for a receiver. So I think that's the argument. Would you rather have, let's just say, the 3 receivers and 2 tight ends, or do you want to go 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, that kind of thing? That's usually the trade-off. But it's going to be up to Will to make sure he is productive, that he is worth being out there at the same time as Brevin in passing situations, more so than a wide receiver. That's a nice run there. Oh, he tried to get that spin move going. KG, what's going on? One of the things you'll be looking for the most is a clean, organized, disciplined team. We definitely were game 1. Was it a fluke or is it the new standard? Certainly hope so. Yeah, and I know what you're saying with that clean, organized, discipline. Because I think it's all the pre-snap stuff that really gets to people, right? There's penalties, and it happens. It's football. There's things that happen. But I think it's the pre-snap stuff that really gets a lot of people worked up when either it's false starts or offsides or any type of shifting. Anything like that, I think is, delay of games. I think those are the things you're talking about when staying clean and organized. I think that's the biggest thing that you can really hurt yourself. And the numbers speak for themselves. Even a 5-yard penalty can really hurt a drive. And I think that's one thing that we saw last year quite a bit with the negative plays, not just with penalties, but with the sacks, the number of sacks, and even taking a 6-yard sack. Maybe you take 6 yards on first down, and now you're sitting at 2nd and 16, and you're fighting your way back. Whereas I don't think that Miami's going to be in those situations this year. I think a bad play, now you're sitting 2nd and 9. I think that's a lot different. I think D'Erickson be able to do a good job of reading the play, avoiding sacks as much as possible, although certainly the offensive line is important in that category. And with the offensive line, I do think that the passing protection needs to be a little bit better this game. If Miami wants to pick it up with producing passing yards, D'Eric's got to make sure he's comfortable back there, understand he has a pocket to work with. and that it's not collapsing all the time. You know, as he looks to find the receivers and things like that. So certainly the offensive line can, them playing better would definitely help as well. So here we go. We're on the move here.
From the red zone now, they'll look to throw to the goal line.
Miami's got the lead.
Incomplete.
Nice catch by Jalen. I would like to see Jalen involved in the passing game. I've talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah, nice job to force the incompletion. So now second and 10.
This is a formation you could see tomorrow with the two receivers to the left, running the back. Oh, that's tough. You know, I really do think that's a play because, you know, you fake the handoff there and then you look, and I think that is definitely a play that you could see.
And that's the thing to keep in mind. They're in field goal range, so now you don't take any
Wiggins getting an opportunity there. So now that we go bunch receivers to the right, still shotgun.
This offense was on the move. Now
And
two
running back's
straight
leaking out.
incompletions have them looking at
Oh, another one.
looking to throw. King.
I think Wiggins wanted a call on that one.
Incomplete.
Well, that's tough. And hopefully Wiggins is a threat there in the end zone. I do think, you know, there's been a lot of talk about Brevin Jordan not involved as much as you would expect in that first half.
Penalty, why not a penalty? What did you see?
But seeing him get that touchdown, I thought was a really good sign.
contact coming from both sides. No flag. Let them fight it out.
And forces
That's a
fourth
nice
down.
play. Because I think that's an area where Brevin can be more productive for the team is scoring more touchdowns. So I thought that was a positive sign. And I didn't really view that as an ultimate or a big negative, I guess. I think there were other things that could have been improved. I guess I'm just not really that concerned about Brevin being involved. I think it was just the way the half went. And when guys have proven track records, I'm not as worried about them because I essentially just believe that they'll, you know, rise to that or be better than what they've shown, even if it's looks like they're not at a certain particular point in time. The guys that are unproven and the ones that you're hoping or wishing or wanting to do well that we haven't seen yet, those are the ones that I'm a little bit more concerned with. What else do we got here? Okay, we see some freshmen. Will we see some freshmen, don't you think? Yeah, only 3 true freshmen played in the opener. I thought that was interesting. Michael Redding III, I think, is the guy that you're looking at a receiver for more opportunities. He was the only freshman receiver to play last week. You know, they have Keyshawn Smith, a guy that I really like, a guy that I'd like to see get involved, a guy that I think who can be good in the return game. Mentioned Xavier Restrepo earlier, and then Daz Warsham is the other one. Giving Miami 4 receivers, 4 freshmen. And then they've got the 4 guys that they've had in the mix last week. I mentioned Peyton there, but Pope, Wiggins, and Harley, and then Marshall Few kind of sandwiched in the middle to give Miami the 9 receivers that they have. Oh, there we go. Al Blades. Look at Al Blades Jr. He's definitely excited about that. And that's a big play. I think you'd like to see that, I'm sure. Just a pick 6 for Al. Make a big play. I talked about it earlier. He's a guy that thinks Miami can be one of the best secondaries in the country, and making big plays in games like this certainly would help. Again, it's all about those results. You've got to do well with the results. What else? Oh, Maurice is here. What's going on? Glad you're here. thanks for stopping by. And Christopher Stevens is here as well. What's up? Missed you earlier, but I see you're here as well. Kelsey's here also. We'll definitely see who they get involved, maybe a little bit differently. I mentioned, Brooks, the guy that get more involved. Going back to Corey Couch, he's another one. It'll be interesting to see how involved he'll be. He was heavily involved last week with the snap counts. Not as much as Blades and Ivy, but if Blades and Ivy are really, if they do need to improve their game, Corey Couch is a guy that he's essentially the only other corner that can step up right now. With Williams gone, will Couch get that playing time? I think many of you just want to see, regardless of who it is, want to make sure you see better play from the secondary, just maybe a little concerned. I think the big thing to me in terms of the passing game, because you are expecting Louisville to be able to throw the ball a little bit, but you want to make sure, again, Miami's getting their hands on balls, making it tough. You want to feel like they're not overwhelmed by Otwell or even Fitzpatrick with a little bit better, bigger size as a receiver, a guy like that. Again, another guy that's been productive, but you just don't want to be overwhelmed. You want to be right there. Like what you saw with Blades on that side, on that near sideline, tracking a ball last week, about 20 yards downfield, kind of looks up and makes a play on the ball. Stuff like that. You want to make sure all the corners are there. Certainly they're going to give up passes. It happens. It's part of the position. There's Fitzpatrick there.
One play has him up past the 40 already, and another 1st and 10.
God, those are two good words for Couch.
Back to throw.
I asked Mark Pope what it's like, what he thinks about Corey Couch, facing him in practice, and the thing he said was, he's a guy that plays hard. He's like, don't let his size fool you. He's a guy that plays hard. He's going to bring it, that kind of thing. And I thought that was telling, because I think that's the way I perceived Corey from watching him, either at the high school level or in practices.
5 straight completions here in this second half. 1st and 10. Now a fake on
And
the
so
give. Here's
I think
a
that's a
try
good
to
sign.
run
So
this
we'll
up.
see. Definitely we'll see. And regardless how much Corey plays, this is definitely an opportunity for him. This isn't like last year where he didn't play much other than special teams. This is it. Like, again, Williams isn't out there. Williams only played 8 snaps last week, but maybe Corey gets those 8. But regardless, because Louisville has different wideouts to throw to, they're going to need all their corners matching up.
Now this will probably be the last
But definitely
play
look
of
for the
quarter.
safeties. I think that'll be the thing to watch for too. Will any of the safeties line up more in a corner spot? Or maybe you're going to see a little, just the way that they can kind of blanket, maybe shift the cover, maybe they roll the coverage, just different ways to help the corners out a little bit. Or maybe you see the striker position shadow a little bit more with Gilbert Frierson and Keontra Smith. That's another position battle to watch for. Frierson played a little bit more than Smith in the first game, but definitely it's just a position battle to watch for as well.
On 2nd down, here's Cunningham.
There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on with this team. And I think the biggest thing about tomorrow is, and I know the opener was great, and you wanted to see them win and not keep the losing going in the whole thing. But this is it. This is an ACC game. This is, this is what you want to see from Miami in terms of the improvement, the production. You're playing a solid team. Like it was mentioned earlier, Miami's an underdog, even though they're ranked a spot higher, but still, you want to see Miami pull through and help set the tone for the season, really. Florida State and Clemson coming up.
Nothing's worked for them. They've got to find a way to start matching each other's movements.
Wide open receiver complete. And they're able to get this one past the
So Miami holding on to that 31-7 lead in the fourth quarter here.
Good for a Cleveland first. Felt compelled to go for it there on fourth down, trailing in the fourth quarter. They got it done.
And there's always a lot of
Go
pressure.
ahead and pick up that first down.
Doesn't matter the distance.
And just real quick, maybe a little bit of news. I mean, just nothing big, but people that are fans of these simulations, I kind of continuing to make some breakthroughs on some other ones I'm working on that I haven't posted yet. So if you guys haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It's definitely a huge help. I see a lot of people hitting the like button, a lot more people. That'd be great. You can always watch this thing back after it drops live. And if you haven't, if you guys have jumped on a little bit later, you definitely want to check out the beginning with the Lee Corso pick there. I think that'll be fun. It's just nice that when Miami gets on these stages, these game day, these relevant games, playing Miami's a ranked team, playing against a ranked team, playing against a team that has good players as well. You know, Miami feeling like they've got one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. And some playmakers. Okay, that's a playmaker right there. My goodness. That's Hall right there. It's a backup running back. That's a nice play right there. You just want to see Miami on that stage again, and I think that's what's going to be fun tomorrow.
I love having a football in the booth. I always hang on to it. Makes me feel like I actually played back in my day.
Well, you probably could have.
Curious if anybody has any unique home gating situations going on. If anybody's gonna have some nice foods made. If you got the man cave or any other kind of basement setup, or a room or a TV, any of that kind of good stuff for the game, for the people that cannot be there.
Now after the touchdown, here's Oregon set to kick it off. This one taken from the 7.
And real quick, a huge shout out to the Miami Heat. That's been a lot of fun to watch as well. Definitely got to keep your eye on that tomorrow as well.
Dallas offense now heading back out onto the field. And last time they were able to churn some clock. They got the field goal added onto their lead, but that was a drive that was so long it should have ended in a touchdown. You know that's how they.
So kind of just thinking about the Louisville game there. I actually went to the Miami Louisville game in 06. And Miami lost 31-7. Both teams were ranked in that game. That's the last time they played as ranked. Both teams ranked, but you know, and if you guys remember that game, you know, it was a game where Miami created some buzz when they pregame. They threw the ball at midfield like they always do they did at that time, where they huddle up, they go to midfield, they throw the ball high in the air. They did it at Louisville, kind of on the logo. That it kind of created some controversy, and it was kind of what they were doing at that time. But when they did it at Louisville, it just created a little bit of buzz, and then they go out and get beat 31-7. It was just one of those tough years. It was in that 06 season, which I think was, I don't know, there's teams since, from covering the team, I hear coaches talk about the adversity, and they've had so much adversity, and there's been some adversity, don't get me wrong. But that 06 team, there hasn't been anything like that. There's just a lot that went on during that 06 season. And just thinking about that Louisville game, that was even something like down on the list. That wasn't even one of their bigger things, but at the time it was just they had other things going on as well.
The Cowboys on third down. They've converted 3 out of 5 thus far. This is 3rd and 7.
Orange and green blood, 42-24. Yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. Orange and green. You're pretty close. I actually think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think it's going to be a touchdown game. That's kind of what I think. I understand why you think it get away from Louisville and Miami to go ahead and pull that out because of last year, right? 52-27. Everybody's going to remember that. And I think you're thinking, okay, we put up 52 against them last year. We got a better quarterback this year. That's the thought process of why you think it will be a productive game for Miami on the offensive end. I just feel like it's going to be a little bit tighter. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable in saying that Miami will score a lot more points if the passing game was a little bit more together than what we saw in the first game. And it's not that I don't think it can get there. It's just not right now. And I guess my biggest thing is I don't think that they're going to force it. I think they're going to stick with this running attack for the time being. And I think it's, you know, thinking about, you know, just Manny Diaz as a head coach, former defensive coordinator, that's you know, that's where his philosophies come from as a coach. It doesn't surprise me for a defensive coach, a defensive-minded coach, to kind of rely on the to rely on the running game on the offensive side of the ball. It kind of goes hand in hand a little bit, so you can kind of understand if they are going to go that route, that it does make sense a little bit. Plus, again, they're not forcing it in the sense that you've got three guys that were productive, and Derek, who also makes a lot of plays as well. I guess my thing is I just felt like I would have liked to have seen, I felt like the game was in hand last week, and I think it's important to always play forward, knowing that Louisville's coming up, knowing that Florida State's coming up, and Clemson. You don't have a lot of time to try to get things right. You don't have these non-conference games, these 4 non-conference games to get things right. And so the one that they did have, I just would have liked to have seen a little bit more of an emphasis. But I understand the philosophy. I understand why they didn't, and you guys do too. It was working, right? 337 yards. Everybody was getting loose, and it's hard to go away from things when it's really working. But they ran the ball twice as much as passing. So we'll see. We'll see tomorrow. John Ford making plays. Defense looking pretty solid. Another position battle I haven't brought up is Bubba Bolden at safety. I think you will continue to see him in quite a few reps. Although they do mix those guys up. Gervin Hall and Amari Carter. I think that'll just be the rotation. And I think that they'll continue to use all three.
And let's face it, with this deficit, if they give up another score here after they didn't get
when
it,
they're
does it
available.
really matter? It really doesn't. They had to go and try and make something happen if they had any chance of winning this game.
And now Dallas gets set to take the field. Been a very strong performance for them, really on both sides of the football. The turnover on downs the most.
Yeah, Dylan, that makes sense. You're talking about the playbook and only using 5 to 7 plays, but also just in saying that, I think that's Rhett Lashley's philosophy. He's kind of done that in the sense, well, it's kind of a mix. I'll say that. Yes, he will use trick plays. Yes, we will see that as the season goes on. I agree. I think, you know, with the limited look in the running game, the only thing is most run plays are pretty basic, if that makes sense. It's the passing game creativity is where you see it more in the passing game. And like you said, and like I said, it was working, so write it out, hand the ball off and go. Like I mentioned earlier, there were some cutback things that really worked out for Miami, either by the running back seeing holes on the backside or by counter plays that were designed. But basically, the running backs did a good job of making plays. And you have to be encouraged because, once again, it was all three of them. It wasn't just Cam Harris. It wasn't just that 66-yarder that he reeled off on kind of an odd play on a 4th and 1 where as soon as he got to the line, he was off really quick. But you saw the other plays where they were able to get to the perimeter, get through some holes, make some plays. You saw the freshman not just 4 or 5 yards here and there, but you saw that Jalen Knighton gets a 25-yarder. He has an 18-yarder. 18-yarder came on his second carry in college. Don Chaney Jr. goes for 33 yards on his 3rd carry in college. So those were the positive signs, those big-time plays, those 20-yarders you really like to see, 15-yarders, things like that. That's why you should be excited about the run game. And with Jalen Knighton, you know, I mentioned earlier, there's opportunities there to make bigger plays. I mentioned Don Chaney Jr. He's a guy that ran the ball well, but I think there were some plays on some runs that he could have made even more, and I think that's just going to come with time, so they're going to be fine. And real quick on Cam Harris, if you saw him earlier too, one of the things I kind of changed up with some of these guys, and Cam was one of them, but just getting their uniforms right. Give Cam Harris that turf tape there and try to be as authentic as possible.
But credit the defense, bottling him up, not letting him get in for the second score there. From the 2 now, 2nd and goal.
Couple minutes left. Just a huge shout out to everybody that jumped in on here. Again, not a lot of notice. Did it last week, but didn't know exactly what day of the week I wanted to do this on. And I know Friday night is tough. Maybe you're paying attention to high school football, have other things going on. But glad you're here. Once again, you can watch it back. And if you have a suggestion on what day of the week you'd like to see this in, let me know. Big play right there from Miami. D. Wiggins coming up big. Stretching the lead out here. That celebration was nice too. And D's definitely a guy that could get going in the passing game too. Talked about it earlier, maybe some breakout guys. I definitely think D. Wiggins is right there too, because that long speed, the ability to get downfield. You're talking about D'Eriq King, the ability to hit on some of those long throws. D's a guy that could obviously be a recipient downfield. So keep an eye on 8 there on the outside, running those 9 routes. Okay, David Wagner's here. Glad you stopped by. Glad you're here as well. And Dylan, no doubt, man. Like, no doubt about the playbook thing. I definitely hear you. Okay, and maybe with that, Dylan, is it tomorrow? Like, do you open it up completely? Do you feel like tomorrow they got to do all those things and you can't worry about it anymore? You know, with Clemson coming up, or do you hold stuff back? And typically, as the way the seasons go, there's definitely things that teams get to as it goes on. You add a few more things. Maybe there's a week where they feel like they can expose a team, so they kind of work on a new play or a play that's been on the playbook but they haven't used yet. So it certainly does get built on. Just kind of typical with the team. But I wonder if we're going to see the trick plays and things like that. And UAB's head coach faced Rhett Lashley when they were coordinators, when Rhett was at Arkansas State, and that's one thing that he expected. He expected to see trick plays and things like that, and we didn't see that. So definitely feel like it should come tomorrow, right? I mean, we should see them really doing everything they can. And to Dylan, to your point about not using a ton of plays also with the run game, you know, Rhett has talked a lot about simplifying the offense in terms of, you know, go with what's working. It's not about what they know as coaches. It's about what the players can execute and really excel in, and that's going to be his offensive philosophy in general. Whether it's running the ball or passing the ball, if something's working, they're going to stick with it, it seems like. And they're not going to be worried too much about forcing things. It's kind of my takeaway, the way Rhett has talked about all offseason. And we saw a little bit of that. Saw a little bit of a sign of that. LeBrent's here. What's going on? No trick plays. Louisville front sober. It's a joke. Yeah, run the ball. They do have some linebackers returning. So you got to keep an eye on that. But definitely, you know, and you got to look at it too. Louisville's definitely going to be expecting the run. And I think both teams, to be honest with you, with the run game, I think Louisville's going to want to run the ball. I talked so much about tonight about Cunningham in the passing game, but Atwell, Fitzpatrick, and Braden and tight ends, you know, their running game, they want to get that thing going too. So I think both teams, if we're talking about keys of the game, I think definitely both teams' ability to run the ball is going to be a key. Miami's 2-10 in their last 12 games where they've given up at least 130 rushing yards. And I think that's going to be a mark for Miami to watch for with their defense. Talk about defensive tackles looking to take a jump up in their performances in their games. You'd like to see them stop the run. You'd like to see the linebackers that are going to be challenged, whether it's Brooks, Jennings, McLeod. If you want to see Avery Huff in there, Wayne Steed. Maybe even the freshman Corey Flagg gets in there. But regardless of who they're rolling out there, the linebackers are going to have to do a good job of finding Hawkins and making sure they're closing in on the perimeter and not giving up a lot of holes. And it's going to be tough because, once again, Louisville's going to try to be balanced and mix in runs with Cunningham. It's going to be a good test for Miami.
On second down, this is Harris. And he is met in his tracks behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, David, we might see the new turnover chain. You'd like to think so. They had some opportunities in that first game. Cunningham did throw a pick the first game. Like I said, only threw 5 last year, but he did throw one in the first game, so maybe you're looking at opportunity there.
So this one will end in a victory for the Dallas Cowboys. And really, it looked at times like they just had this one in cruise control.
And yeah, Dylan, I agree with the playbook. I think they got to do whatever it takes to win. I've never been a huge believer in really holding things back. And I don't think Miami's at a place where they can afford to do that. Anyways, I think they've got to do whatever they can to win the game. So this was good. This was fun. I appreciate everyone. Al Blades on that big play there. That was great to see. Solid performance all the way around. I think you would definitely take this if you're Miami. That score would be great if you're Miami. Huge shout out to Norman for the donation. Appreciate you. Always, showing your support is definitely helpful. I can't stress that enough. I definitely appreciate everybody. If anybody else is interested, you could do that. If anybody is interested in the new T-shirts, the Inside the U T-shirts, you can check below on the stream right there, or check the Inside the U store right there on the Inside the U channel. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. It's a huge help. Helps spread the word. This was great. We'll keep this thing going. Big one next week is Florida State. We're going to have some fun stuff with that one. And we'll see how this thing goes. Just thanks to everybody. Well, let's look at some stats here before we wrap this thing up. Dylan, hey, no problem. I enjoy doing this. And like I said, I've got some other ones I'm working on. And a lot of stuff in the summer was helping prepare for this, so we could do the full game, the full team, get the ratings right, get these jerseys correct, and then get the depth chart as accurate as possible. And Louisville, like I said, was a little tricky with them. Shout out to Louisville fans that stopped by. Hopefully it's a good game. Definitely appreciate everybody. Hopefully you guys have a good one. Take care. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Hopefully do some good pregame stuff. Check the channel. Might do a pregame stream as well, and show you guys some clips from practices. All right, and we'll definitely talk more about this big game. Okay, we'll talk to you guys.